Hello, I'm Danna Beal with Project Illumination, and I'm really excited to have a new guest today from New Zealand. Her name is Elle Nagy. Hi, Elle.
Hey, Danna.
Good to see you today. Before I do your introduction, I want to tell people a little bit about my part in starting these podcasts. I'm the founder or the creator of Project Illumination, and that's a movement I believe that's been going on for decades. We just can't see it as much, but it's a rising population of women and men who are bringing more compassion and light into the world. And so we want to empower each other, not that we can empower each other, but inspire each other to stand up and speak for more love and compassion in the world. And we really need it. And I think there are a lot of people involved in this. We're just not connected, but we're getting more and more connected with people like Elle and me. We're sharing these messages. And so I'm the author of a book called The Illuminated Workplace, and I've been a speaker all over the United States sharing this message. And now with podcasts and social media, there's so many other ways to reach people. So I'm excited to have Elle Nagy here today, and she's from New Zealand. And before I even read her, I'm going to read a little bit of her bio, but we met through a Seattle person, which is where I live. And she referred us to each other, introduced each other through LinkedIn. And you and I just had an immediate connection. And so it's amazing how women are such good connectors. I think it's just our natural nature. Women throughout history have often been the ones that keep the whole family together and communicate with everybody. And we have a caring soul that we want to share more freely with people. So let me tell you a little bit about Elle Nagy. Elle is a self-leadership artist and a legacy mentor. She's a partner is your partner in intentional living, merging mindset and heartset for conscious female founders on a transformative journey. With a foundation spanning 3 decades, including a BA honors in psychology, an ILS coaching, pranic psychotherapy, and a yoga teacher certification, Elle crafts a holistic approach to self-leadership. And her main goal is self-leadership. So I'm going to ask you a lot more about that, Elle. She empowers women to access their intuition and creative power, unlocking their true potential. Elle's book, the little book of big principles for greatness, explores 5 ancient and evolved principles for holistic calibration to inherent greatness. Whilst her upcoming book, Keys to Self-Leadership, introduces groundbreaking concepts like the historian's journey and rempowerment, you could pronounce that for me, lighting the path to personal sovereignty. Elle's mission extends beyond societal success, aiming for a life lived boldly and authentically. And I can stand for you and say you are one of the most bold and creative and authentic people I've met. So you're accomplishing that. Her artistry and self-leadership is an invitation to embrace life events as catalysts for growth, offering not just achievement, but an unapologetic celebration of life. So her main theme is self-leadership, but she does so many different portals of sharing this self-leadership. So welcome, Elle.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here today.
Well, me too. And you have friends down under, and I have friends up here, and then we have our friends all over the world. And so just before we started, we were getting into some very interesting conversations. But the very first thing I want you to tell me is about the unapologetic. You ask all your guests, what does unapologetic mean to you? So I'm asking you, what's the unapologetic woman?
What for me, the unapologetic woman is when we have gone through life experiences, and through life we self-abandon, through life we self-sacrifice, we really move away from ourselves through conditioning. And we are being taught how to think, how to be a good woman, how to be the right woman, how to be likable to other people. And in the process, we have to self-sacrifice some of us, because as women, let's be honest, we don't really fit into the image that society has crafted, in what I can only think is the Stepford wife imagery.
Or the Cinderella.
Or the Cinderella, yes. When we reclaim ourselves, when we rediscover ourselves, when we remember who we truly are, there is something that happens within a woman, in that you finally fall deeply and madly in love with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You finally get to appreciate your little nuances, your quirks, your strengths, your fullness, and you get to respect yourself as this woman. Now, the really interesting thing that happens is when we get into the space of becoming unapologetically ourselves, all of a sudden we can unapologetically accept, appreciate, and love others without needing them to conform to our beliefs of what they should be like. So the unapologetic woman is that reclamation of wholeness and appreciation of diversity, where we can really start enjoying other people for who they are without needing them to change, or without needing to change for them. And it's just a celebration of greatness.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's so true. And it is a process, because we grow up learning to be who we're expected to be. We want to be loved. We want to be needed. This happens to men and women. And women so often are given some unlimited beliefs about themselves, some limited beliefs about themselves. And you're describing reclaiming who you really are, your authentic self.
Yes, absolutely.
You and I are on the same page, because that's what my book is about. It's about honoring the spirit of ourselves and others that's residing beneath our self-created identities. And when we can replace fear and trust for one another, we can all be restored to who we truly are, our authentic, highest self. And women, I think, are leading that movement. Women are really understanding the importance of what you call self-leadership. And I would agree, it's all leadership has to start first with the self. How can you lead others if you can't understand yourself?
Yeah, and it's really interesting for me. And just to all listeners, by the way, I go very much against the grain. So if I trigger you, then my invitation is to either stop listening to me, or to lean into your trigger and to do some inquiry into why is this triggering me so much. I think one of the things that's really important for me is when I started looking around in the world and really observing what was carrying on, and what I started understanding is that leaders are being groomed in how somebody has decided a good leader has to be. And so even our leaders are created as followers. And I get this a lot. People will tell me that, oh, if you want to be a better leader, then you have to do this and this and this. And I go, no. You want to template your idea of what a great leader is onto me. But when I listen to what you are templating, it's not me. It's not my authentic self. And so I would have to once again self-abandon. I would once again have to go against myself in order for me to fit into what you think a great leader is for you. And for the most part, it is what somebody else has told them has been a great leader. So there is very little self-leadership happening on our planet right now, because people have lost faith in themselves. They don't trust their intuition. They don't trust their desires. They don't trust the universe to provide for their desires. And so they have relinquished their own power and given it to others and go, well, you take care of me. Except the people that they're handing their power over to are themselves followers. And that's why I coined the term rempowerment, because I would hear all the time about we empower people. And I go, no. Empowerment comes from within. We can rempower somebody. We can stand and witness their greatness in full faith of who they are until they find the power within themselves. They empower themselves. So we can remind them by witnessing, but we cannot empower another.
No.
And so my invitation to people at the moment is come home to yourself. Like you have to find, if you desire. If you don't want to, it's all good as well, right?
Right.
But if you are looking and you are feeling disillusioned by what you are seeing in leadership at the moment, my invitation for you is then lead yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because we're arriving at so many of the same observations. I call it artificial leadership. It's where leaders are trying to act like a leader, and it's recently I'm more involved in. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I work with corporations, and I follow a lot of the new guidelines to how to have a better workplace culture by being a better leader, and then they give you the steps of what you need to do. And I think they're so missing. It's who you are being is more important than anything else you do. And I call that the Be Love model of leadership. And it's being authentic, caring, listening, and that inspires trust. People when they work in a workplace with trust, they feel safe, and they then explore and do and create like you've done. And so, I mean, you and I are so in sync with our philosophies. I want to ask you how you came to such realizations, because mine was a personal journey of a lot of meditation and hard knocks and facing my weaknesses. How did you come to be the Elle that is impacting the world the way you are?
Well, I think it's important to say that Elle is not dead yet, so Elle is not done yet. When we talk about this is a journey, this really is a journey. For me, it's been a journey of decades of a living life, sometimes joyfully, sometimes heartbreakingly, sometimes depressedly. Like my entire life has been a journey of stubborn learning. Let's put it that way. I'm an extraordinarily resilient woman. Most people call me an extraordinarily stubborn woman. So I have an extremely high pain threshold. So I have to really hurt before I change, before I make changes. And so I've lived some really really painful events throughout of my life, and I don't take away any of that, and I'm not defined by the events, because I see every event in my life as an opportunity to choose who I desire to be. Not what I'm going to do with this, not the identity that I'm going to take on either, but who do I desire to be as a woman who has lived through this event. It doesn't define me, right? And for me, it came from, oh my goodness, being such a typical high achiever and being praised by my society for outworking everybody, outplaying everybody, doing the stuff that most people will never do in their lives, achieving the goals, going to greater and greater, and working with all these high achievers. And again, not taking away from it, I had a blast doing it. I had a blast being a high achievement coach, working with people in corporate and within the entrepreneurial field to really just go to bigger and bigger and bigger goals. I drank the Kool-Aid. I made the Kool-Aid. I was the Kool-Aid.
That's
And
great.
yes. And for most of society, you know what, the whole coaching industry and goal setting and all of that is where they will choose to play for this lifetime. And so there's no judgment against that. Like, everybody needs to really understand this. Like, you're not doing it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. But there is some of us who get to a stage and we go, I am not feeling fulfilled. I'm not inspired by goals anymore. I'm just kind of looking and going, there has to be something more to all of this. And so a few years ago, I burned everything to the ground and I decided to sit in the nothingness. The nothingness. For the first time in my life, I had no goals. For the first time in my life, I had no plan. I just sat there and I had to sit until my brain quietened down. And when I say I sat, I'm not talking about I sat in meditation, people. I sat for months and kind of go, come on, Elle, you need to start getting your crap together now. Set a goal. You can do this. But there was something inside of me that just went, no, we're not living like that anymore. We're not living like that anymore. We are not setting another goal. Like, you have to do nothing to be Elle.
Yeah.
That was tough. That was so tough, Danna. I went through that whole thing of, but then I'm not of value to anybody. But then I'm worth nothing. Like, I'm not enough. I'm only valuable to people because I can get them to get the goals. I know how to do this stuff in my sleep. Like, that's my gift. And it was, no, it's not. No, it's not. That's just tools. And you are more than a tool. And I sat in nothingness until I could be Elle and start seeing the world from a different perspective. You see, what I've discovered is that our achievement-driven world is built on a fear frequency.
Oh,
it's
totally.
why they tell you to set goals that scare you.
Yeah.
It's why they tell you that you have to do something that's uncomfortable every single day, because everybody is conditioned in fear. And so they truly believe that they need fear to motivate them to get to the next level.
The old model.
The old model. But thank peanut butter that consciousness is bringing forth a new model which says, no, there's another option available to you, and that is to create from love. And when you create from love, you don't feel the fear and take the action. No. When you create from love, you don't live in a state of discomfort. When you create from love, you don't need to set big goals that scare you. You just follow your desires.
You kind of froze for a minute.
Oh, okay. Am I back?
Yes.
Yes, great stuff. So when you're operating from love, you don't have to set scary goals. You allow desire to lead the way. And what you ask yourself is, who do I desire to evolve into next? Yeah. Who is this woman that I desire to be? That when I look at her, I respect her and I'm so proud of her. It's no longer me against me. It's me and me. It is the human Elle and the source Elle, the human and the being that comes together and play in love. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And from then everything, you can't ever see life the same again once you see it from love.
Yeah. Once you know, you can't go back. You can't unknow.
Well, and I don't think you want to. No. You know, it's interesting. whenever I was a coach or, as a high achiever, there was always some times that I got to, oh my God, I wish I didn't know this. Then my life would have been so much easier. Ignorance was bliss.
Uh-huh.
I don't have that sensation anymore. Ignorance is not bliss. When you unhook from the fear grid, you are so liberated, and that's when life becomes art. It's like we've just created this beautiful magazine because
Yes,
my
I
message
just read
to
it from
people
cover to
was,
cover last night.
yes, my message to people was life gets to be artistry, everything in life. When you eat a meal like an artist, or you dress and it's like an artistic experience for you, and you have a conversation as an artistic expression
Yeah.
of your thoughts at this time and your beliefs at this time. Oh my God. Then everything that we hear becomes insanity.
Yeah.
When we hear about fear and setting scary goals, it's insanity. When we hear people being told to be vulnerable, it's insanity, because being your real self does not make you vulnerable. Being authentic does not make you vulnerable. It makes you more powerful than what other people can handle. So you don't need people's protection, because you are invincible in a way, because you have the universe at your back.
Yes. And it takes great trust. And you described it's not easy. And for me, it was not easy. But when the inner knowing happened, I became so blissful to be free of these stories that I'd been believing. And I can still watch them. It's kind of like a Netflix movie, but I no longer feel pulled into the drama. Well, that's what my book's about, the drama. So when you're describing that, the word that has kind of come up is the trusting the universe. And so I did write an article in your, three of your magazines now, and mine was on the art of synchronicity. And I described some of my amazing experiences where I get answers before I even know I have to find them. And then they show up, and it's just unbelievable. The trust in the universe that is our strength, the trust in universal love. It's the power that sustains all life. It's the reason we exist, but it's so intangible that it's difficult, and it takes courage to step out into the abyss, or the unknown, I call it. And so that made me wonder, your magazine just has so many wonderful articles, and you are a poet on top of everything else. But have you experienced that synchronicity when you let go, how things just seem to come so easily?
God, yes. I mean, so we've just celebrated our 1-year anniversary of the podcast, the Unapologetic Women podcast. And so that, by the way, was surrender and trust. I never thought I would host a podcast ever, because I don't listen to podcasts. I'm a visual person. I love reading. I don't really listen. But there was just this message that came through that said, you're starting a podcast. And I was like, what? Why? What would it be about? And it was just, you starting a podcast, and it's called The Unapologetic Woman. And I had no idea what I was doing, no idea. I just called a friend and said, hey, I'm starting a podcast. Would you like to be my first guest? And she's like, sure, what are we talking about? And I said, I don't know. We'll just get on the call, and we'll just talk, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Well, a year later, the Unapologetic Woman has blossomed into the podcast, the magazine, the consulting company of self-leadership, of the soiree. All of those, none of those was planned. None of those were, I'm going to get ready to do this, and I'm going to, this is the plan of action.
Yes.
Nothing.
I love that.
It's just, this is what's next. And then I go, Okay, a magazine? Sure. How hard can it be? Let me call my friends. Friends, I'm starting a magazine. Who wants to write for me?
And look at all the friends you've made
Oh my
all over the
God.
world.
That has been for me the greatest gift of the podcast.
Me too.
The greatest gift of the podcast is for the last year, I have met women, new women, every single week for the last year. Women that were introduced to me by other women that kind of go, oh, she'll be great for your podcast. You have to meet so and so. And then I meet them and I go, they were right. She's fabulous. Oh my God. Will you come and play on
Well,
my
like
podcast?
attracts like. We're attracting women that we're all in the same vibration, and we're all on a journey, and we might be at different stages in our life, different levels or frequencies. But I wanted to add, I'm starting to be a little more open about my own knowing, like yours, because I've always been on these corporate stages around the country and Canada, and I'm rarely telling people the real truth. But I have been guided with everything I'm doing in my actual book. I was awakened in the night, and I was given basically dictated, downloaded the information in my book, and I went from there. And it's about everything we're talking about: facing our fears, giving up our fears, realizing our power, and understanding. I believe this: we're not the downtrodden. We are often convinced we're the downtrodden, and we have a tendency to be a victim. But when we refuse to be a victim and trust that there is so much power in just our own being and our connection, the miraculous happens. And so I love you sharing that yours came without a plan. So did mine. I up and sold my condominium. I moved to Seattle, and I started speaking all over the United States as keynote speakers at national conventions. I wanted to add one more thing. No one has mentioned this on a lot of my talks or anywhere so much about the goals. I was the supreme goal setter. My license plate said goals, and I drove around in a white sports car, and I was on the cover of a magazine for being the success motivation speaker. And it was not satisfying. I realized that I was just running around so rapidly, like so many women. And it's time for all of us to just find our own self-leadership, our inner power that is so magnificent. And you are such a great example, just an amazing example. So tell me a little bit more about some of the people that you've met, and what do you find some maybe consensus? What are some things that you see in the women? Because this will be listened to by lots of other women. What are some of the things that you are seeing that can help all of us as we continue on our journeys? Do you have any examples, maybe?
So I have a tendency to attract really powerful women in my life. Women who come from high achieving backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is we tend to be lone wolves, number one. Yeah. And there is a deep distrust of other women, because as we show up in the world, we are told to be powerful women, but society doesn't really love a powerful woman. Mm-hmm. And other women often feel threatened by a powerful woman. We're very mm-hmm. misunderstood. People mm-hmm. think that we are competitive, and we are, but we are not competitive that somebody has to lose in order for us to win. We're very much competitive in terms of, how do I be even better? How do I be mm-hmm. even better? How do I raise the bar for myself?
Yes.
And so one of the things that I've come to understand is that this is the time for women like us, first of all, to leave behind our lone wolf tendencies and to find what I want to call our pack, our wolf pack. Mm-hmm. And in that sacred space, restore our faith in ourselves and our faith in other women.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say it takes time.
Mhm.
It really does take a long time for us, well, because we're extraordinarily intelligent, right?
Oh, of
And as
course.
intelligent women, we kind of look for little things, little details the whole time.
Mm.
And because we maybe have been backstabbed in the past, we kind of look, is this going to happen again in this space? Am I being judged right now? What
By
is
a
this
man or a woman.
situation?
It isn't
By a
necessarily.
man or a
Yeah.
woman. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But when you allow yourself to find your pack, and
Right.
when you allow yourself to invest time in really getting to know other women,
Mhm.
women who are willing to take the masks off, women who are willing to not just show up in their professional capacity, but as themselves,
Yeah.
that is when the trust is restored. That's where you start getting your 3 a.m. besties.
Yes.
And that's where empires are built.
Yes.
Because what I've come to discover is that so many of us are being called together at the moment to answer the question, how do we do business differently from a space of love?
Yes.
I feel like that is the question in consciousness right now that
Mhm.
we are working on, that we are sowing the seeds for, that we are starting to calibrate to.
Yes. I agree.
Because at the moment, business is transactional.
Mhm.
There's very little love in business. And even people who do business in a loving industry need clients to need them.
Yeah.
That has to start changing. I don't work with people who need to work with me. I will say to any of my clients, you don't need me, but do
Mhm.
you want to play with me? Do you
Mhm.
want to play in sacred conversation? Do you
Mhm.
want to play in sacred excavation?
Yes.
Then we can play together, but nobody needs me.
Right.
And I feel like at the moment, there's still this need conversation. You need me. I'm going to show you the way. No, 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 no,
Yes.
no. No, 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 no.
No,
That's
everyone really
where,
knows inside. They might need, I sometimes feel like I'm a helping hand for somebody to stand up in their own courage. And I mean, I get images in my mind when I'm coaching, individual coaching, and I literally can tell them words like, sometimes it's something like, get off your knees and stand up fully. And that's what, a metaphor, what you're doing. I think it sounds like, and that's what I'm doing, is we want to help our sisters and help them be strong, because it has been a society dominated by fear and wanting acceptance. And basically everybody wants that. But
yeah.
ultimately, everybody, and I ask this of audiences, I asked them what's their greatest fear, and their fears are unknown, not being liked, being humiliated, um, being not appreciated. But ultimately, everybody wants to be loved and accepted. And so when we start with ourselves, like you said, Fred, from the beginning, then we're able to invite that in others and love others and have compassion for others. And it's just a magical experience that it takes some courage, because it's letting go of old beliefs, old ideas, even stereotypes that you might have had, and becoming conscious to your true self.
I'm going
So,
to say as well, one of my saving graces has been a sense of humor.
oh yes.
Um, I want to mention this for people because I think that this for me was a game changer. As a
Yeah.
high achiever, you take yourself very serious and you're very aware of how people perceive you, and you have to show up in a certain way.
Mhm.
Well, when I started growing down was when life started become a little easier, and I had to grow down by bumboarding down snow slopes or riding my bicycle and falling in the mud and actually just laughing like an idiot. I had to start learning how to be willing to look the fool and to laugh.
Yes.
And my sense of humor always is, because I'm not perfect. Please don't ever think that, oh my God, Elle has reached the summit and now she's no. I want a human experience. So I am very much the observer of myself all the time. And I will listen to my thoughts, or I will listen to what I say and go, you just hear yourself, girlfriend. Like, okay, you do that. You say that. You say that. And I will laugh. And people probably think I'm crazy majority of the time, because I'll be in public and go, oh my God, I just did that again. I just said that again.
I know. I think a good belly laugh is wonderful, especially even at yourself.
Especially at yourself.
Yeah.
I am unattached to any of my beliefs now. In fact, I love going out and finding evidence that contradicts my beliefs. The only belief that I will hold to forever is that I am source consciousness, evolving consciousness through human experience.
Yeah.
That is my foundational belief.
Yes. It's mine as well. And everything is consciousness. We're an expression of consciousness. Consciousness is unlimited, and it's an awareness. It's so great that that's what we're here to do. We are what I'm being told by my guidance. I call it the 12 wise ones, that we are in a huge shift of consciousness. Yes. And the shift of consciousness is exactly what we're talking about. Replacing fear with trust and compassion and love, and becoming, I call it unification of the soul. We are reconnecting with our soul, remembering who we are. And so you and I are both up to some wonderful, beautiful work with other women and you know, all people. It's teenagers. I have grandchildren actually that are 9 years old, and it's just such a beautiful world, and there's so many opportunities, and it's sad to see when people are crawling along or feeling fearful or disempowered. But we are not the downtrodden. We are not victims when we choose to stand up. And that's what you've done, I've done. But to be really, we're both sincerely saying it comes with struggle to get there. I call it the shadow side, or the barriers that we have to find in ourselves. But you just said the magical thing is when you can see the blocks and barriers and laugh at yourself, then you know you've really let go of them.
Yeah, and I'm quite looking forward to us creating evidence where it won't have to be a struggle for people anymore. And maybe that is part of what we are doing right now, because I look at myself and I go, yeah, man, it didn't have to be that hard, right? But I had a belief that I was being tested, that the universe sent all these horrible things for me, that I had to learn my lesson. And if I didn't learn my lesson, it will become harder and harder. It was like very much like this. Me and the universe had this relationship. And now I understand that, no, that's just a story that we designed as well as humans.
Right.
And it's not necessary. It's really, so we say, and I agree with you, it's sad when we see people suffer, because we understand it's just a choice and that there is another choice available. But I also don't preach at people anymore and go, oh, you don't have to do this, like you could. Because what I've just come to understand is I honor their journey, and I understand now the perfection of life.
Yes.
All the, what we call horrible things that happens in our world is divine, because it creates desire for the opposite in consciousness, and consciousness becomes that. Right. And we have a choice to calibrate to what consciousness is becoming or not. Right. Because the more contrast we live, the more consciousness evolves. So then we can stop judging people so harshly and go, oh my goodness, why are you still doing this? And instead have so much appreciation for them and kind of, well, that's where I'm kind of looking at people going, thank you for creating more contrast. Thank you for living more contrast that we get to benefit from.
Yes, and just it's interesting how the topics that are coming up. I was just talking to my sister last night. I have there's 5 girls in my family and 1 brother. So I have a natural tendency to love women because I had loving sisters. But I was talking about how we do judge, but everybody judges. We need to be aware of our judgments. They're coming from us. What we think we see out there is really coming from us. And the more we can be open-minded and know that, I mean, having an open mind to all the different perspectives and respecting and honoring everybody's perspective is part of compassion and part of love and acceptance of others. And this competitive world we're living in, there's a lot of internal competition in businesses, and there's a lot of competition in the world. And we're coming out saying, and the part about barriers and the struggle, I like to say that to people because I don't want people to think that, oh, I can just decide I want this, this, and this. Well, maybe you can, but there's usually some giving up process. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't all just happen like a miraculous thing. Be patient, and persistence and resilience are still all part of the qualities we need to.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. I think what most people are missing is that we really can be, do, and have anything that we desire.
Yes.
We really, really can.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
this is the fine script that most people aren't reading.
Yes.
You have to become the person who has what you desire.
Yes.
When I say you have to become the person that has what you desire, it means that there are things that need to be sacrificed. Now, we are conditioned to self-sacrifice so that we have to work really hard to get what we want. But that's not the sacrifice that I'm speaking of. The true meaning of sacrifice is releasing that which is of a lower vibration so that you can receive that which is of a higher vibration.
Yes.
So you have to sacrifice the beliefs that you currently hold, because those beliefs are contradictory to the beliefs that you would have once you had what you say you want. You have to sacrifice some of your behavioral patterns, some of your thinking patterns, some of your speech patterns, some of your clothing patterns, some of your eating patterns, some of your training patterns. So that's what needs to be let go of. And then what are they replaced with? Because once you are the person that has what you desire, the desires come through. But also, they don't plonk in your lap, just like, oh, I wanted this. Ding! No, because the person who has that is taking certain actions.
Yes.
They are seeing the opportunities. They are feeling inspired and showing up in the right places and speaking to the right people.
Yes.
Which is what creates the manifested form of our desires.
Yeah. And when you are who what you're describing is when you are in that place of you become and continually hold that space of love, then things sometimes do just plunk in your lap.
Looks like, right? It looks like it's just plonking in your lap. But when you actually sit and trace back all the little synchronicities and the people that you just had a random conversation with, then you go, oh, that's pretty freaking awesome how it all works, right?
Yes.
We were talking the other day, I was journaling, and I shared this with the ladies in the soiree. I was journaling, and I was journaling on money and things that I want at the moment that I need in order for me to get the business. And then this thought was, Elle, it's all resource. And I go, no, resource. Source, capital S, universal source energy, regarding source. All our resources are regarding source energy, which means it's coming from source energy.
It all is.
Wow, that's so freaking cool, right?
Yes.
Because then we understand what is our part in the creative process and what is source's role in the creative process.
Yeah. Yes. And we need to show up, but but we also need to trust that we are interconnected, and there will be forces that can come into our life. Almost 4 years ago on New Year's Eve day, I got similar beautiful messages about trusting in the source. And I was told our self-worth is not found in accumulating money or things. But that's been where we believed our worth was, because your financial worth. And I've made lots of money, and I've had times where I don't make as much money. None of it has anything to do with my self-worth. I thought it did when I was younger, but now I'm at peace, and I just, what I need seems to come to me. And
when you
I keep talking.
Talk like that, what comes to mind, because I think that this worth piece is really important.
Yeah.
It's even when I listen to the saying that your network equals your net worth, I cringe.
Yeah.
Because this is why relationships have become so transactional. And I don't want to be part of anybody's network because they think that increases their net worth.
Yeah.
Oh, can we please stop that? Oh my God. We are not little money pieces running around. And maybe that's the shift that needs to happen in business, because business sees people as resources. Even when they use the term human resources, I kind of go, no.
I know.
Everybody seems to have a dollar amount painted on them, whether they're an employee or a customer or a colleague or whatever. In how do we transact so that I get the most dollars? That has to change.
Has to change. It never ever it will never bring self-worth, and all it does is cause a lot of competition. And this whole idea of conquering and having more and power over others, that's not true power. That's artificial power. What I wanted to comment on, the sacrifice, the way you describe sacrifice is beautiful. It's letting go of, really, in essence, what we don't need. But that doesn't mean it's easy. And I want to give it, I guess I want some practical examples before we close, because we could talk forever, actually, all day if we want. But the sacrifice sometimes requires courage, because you don't want to let go, even though you know it no longer serves. And for example, I was in a relationship that I valued a lot, but it was deteriorating. And then I got a vision. How I mentioned I get these flash visions of, I was like flying like an eagle, but this person was pulling my wing down. And I just, in a flash, picture paints 1,000 words. I realized this relationship was not helping me. It was fine. It was lots of fun. We traveled, we did great things, but it was actually pulling me away from being my full self. And sadly, I had to say, we have to end this. And I grieved, but I little by little felt my freedom come back to be who I am. And so my point is, there will be sometimes some things that we need to let go of. Let go sounds like it's so easy. Sacrifice things that no longer serve us. And we ultimately come from that, we come out even stronger. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but I think it does, that we're letting go of what we don't need, even though it might be hard sometimes.
So maybe I can reframe that in a way that makes this a little easier for our listeners, because, and this took me a long time to understand as well. We are all vibrating on frequencies.
Right.
Different levels of high and low frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
When we are high vibrational people naturally, and when I say high vibrational, I'm not saying that we are bouncing around all day, every day. I'm saying that we are high vibrational in that we really consciously connect to source energy, and we consciously connect to our vision, and we consciously connect to living our legacy. And so we are aware of ourselves, and we want to focus on what it is that we want to create.
Yes.
And we are in a partnership, or what most people call a relationship, but we really are in a partnership with other people, with somebody who's lower vibrational. And so they still buy into the struggle. They're still very much in the fear space. And so they want to protect us from ourselves. And they do want to hold us back because, wow, they feel better when they're in our presence, but also they think that we are irresponsible a lot of the times and we won't fit in and the tribe will expel us and all of these things. So when we are in these partnerships and we are on different vibrations, we are actually both in pain. We are hurting each other.
Right.
Not just consciously, emotionally, physically, verbally. We are hurting each other's frequencies because neither can be where they are consciously choosing to be, right? It's called the martyr woman. We're martyring ourselves, and especially powerful women do this, and I did this for decades. We martyr ourselves because we feel like, well, this person brings something into our lives and we can lift them up, we can take them further, all of these things. But we're actually hurting them. The only loving thing to do when you are in a dissonant partnership, the only loving thing to do is to leave. When I knew I wanted to leave my marriage. And I said to myself, I will leave the day that I love him enough to leave.
That's beautiful.
The day that I left, I knew I finally loved him unconditionally. I no longer was attached to the conditions that I had, that he had to change in order for me to love him and be, that person all the time that goes, you can do better than this. We can do better than this. If only you would stop smoking. If only. When I finally looked at me and go, I could see the man and I could love him unconditionally. I left him because that's when I didn't want to hurt him anymore.
Yes. Beautiful.
So where are you hurting people in the name of love? Because that's not love.
No, it's not love. It's transactional and sometimes codependent, and none of those things are real love where you unconditionally accept them. And this particular person, I accept now. He's on his journey. I'm on mine. Ours, for a little while, it worked together, and then it didn't. So those are good, I hope, hints or helpful suggestions to people that maybe something we said today will trigger in them a thought that they could use it to know and love themselves better, and know that they'll be supported by other energies, and especially powerful women that we want to help one another join together. And I think that's what's happening. Your group, other groups that I'm in, more and more women are coming together to share this loving feminine energy that the world and the workplace and all relationships need. So, Elle, I could go on forever with you, but we've been on for almost an hour. Tell us in more detail where people can reach you, and I will put this also in the links, but give us a few hints for people that want to go right now and look.
Best place to connect with me is my website, unapologetic-women.com. There's various avenues there, whether you want to listen to my podcast or read my magazine or book a consultation with me. Everything is on the website. I'm really moving away from social media, so you'll find me there less and less. And one of the reasons is because I do not enjoy followers. I enjoy conversations. So have a conversation with me. Reach out to me. My email is on there. Send me an email. Say, hey, Elle, heard you on Danna's podcast. Let's have a coffee. Let's have a coffee. Even if you don't want a consultation, if you just want to have a coffee and a conversation, I'm here.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's beautiful. Well, thank you, Elle, so much for joining me today. And I'm going to record this. I'm going to put it on YouTube, and I'm going to put it on podcasts. So thank you, and you have a lovely day.
Thanks, Danna, and have a lovely day to our listeners. Cheers.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone who's listening today. Bye-bye.